Hi again then guys, and welcome to another Forza Horizon 3 speed build, and this time we're tuning up a vehicle which you can unlock from the Forzathon events, the Ferrari 599XX, of course the more hardcore track focused variant of what is already a popular car, the 599. We don't have the standard 599 on the game, of course. We do have the GTO, which is kind of the street inspired version of this car. This vehicle though is much more hardcore than most of the street-going supercars in the game. It doesn't have the sheer power of some of the others. As you can see, fully tuned, you're looking at 1160, so it's certainly not lacking, but that could potentially mean that, coupled with its increased weight of 1650 kilos and the added downforce of being a track car, that it may not turn out to be quite as quick. So we'll find out in a second when we take it out on the street. But, as you can see, I would recommend having all-wheel drive. Some people may not want that. That's understandable, and it's down to personal preference. If you don't want it, just don't fit it. We've also fitted the twin-turbo, of course. As far as the rest, it's down to you. Just increase the power, lower the weight, all that kind of good and fairly obvious stuff. Now, as far as the tuning, and first of all the benchmark, not too surprisingly, with a vehicle like this, the acceleration is fantastic. 1.6 to 60, 3.5 to 100, can easily take on almost any other supercar in the game, and even flat out, that benchmark speed of 268 certainly isn't lacking. That's more than good enough for most racing situations. Now, as far as the gearbox, I would recommend a final drive of 3.6, then individual gears, which will be fairly familiar to people who have used my tunes before. 2.89 for first, then 2, 1.5, 1.17, 0.94 and 0.76. As far as alignment, I've gone for neutral, camber and toe. Of course, that's down to you if you want to change it. We've also got 4 degrees of caster with anti-roll rounded off to 23 and 20, springs on 146 and 203 with the highest ride height on this car. To say it's high is relative, of course. It's still a very low to the ground vehicle. You can lower it if you want to, but one of the reasons why I didn't is because with a racing vehicle in particular that's already low and has naturally stiff suspension, you can very easily bounce around and bottom out on the road, and that doesn't help with straight line speed, especially top end speed. As far as dampers, we've got those on 11, 14, 5 and 6. Aero, funnily enough, doesn't apply, and interestingly I have removed the stock Ferrari bunny ears, the wings on the side of the car, which kind of act in a similar way to the spoiler that would usually be on the back. I have removed those because it helps you a little bit with that top end performance. You don't necessarily have to, but I would recommend it for flat out speed. As far as the diff, we've got 100% on acceleration, 0 on decel, and for this car, and you can certainly change this up depending on what you plan to use it for, a 70% centre split in favour of the rear, which of course is great for straight line performance and off the line, but isn't necessarily the most manoeuvrable around corners. You'd be better at around 80% if you're looking for that. But this tune is on my storefront. You can use the keywords down in the video description to find it, or of course you could follow some variation of this tutorial. But as I said earlier on, all that remains is to take it out on the road to see if it can actually hit that speed. Now overall, I have to say that if you do get the chance to pick up a 599XX either from the Forzathon, but obviously that only lasts a certain amount of time, but more importantly from the auction house, where you can usually find at least a couple for sale, usually at pretty extortionate prices as well, I would recommend picking it up, because it's a great performance car to have. It's a very strong cornering machine anyway, and the advantage with cars like that is when they're already good around corners, you can kind of ignore that aspect and build what it doesn't have as much of, which in this case is top end performance. When you combine that together, you end up with a potentially dominating track weapon that can, in this case, be used on the road as well. But as you can see, it has no trouble top end performance wise when tuned. It can even go beyond the benchmark to 269 and definitely even higher with draft. And if you want to extend out that final drive a little bit more, by all means give it a go. But that's it for this tune overall. There are plenty more on the channel if you enjoyed this one, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.